Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be breaking down this Tuesday, February 5th slate in the NBA Daily Fantasy Sports. We're going to be going at it through Draftkings like we usually do, but this can pretty much scale over to any salary cap-based site. So what we're going to be doing today like we usually do, and if you're new to the channel, my name is Sal. Welcome to the channel. We cover daily fantasy sports, sports betting, things like that. What we're going to be doing today is looking on Twitch. Right now I'm live on Twitch. We got a following. We got some people in the chat we're going to be talking to and incorporating as well. And we're going to be looking at just today's injury news early on. Again, it's like 8 in the morning here. Injury news, Vegas odds, pace, defense versus position over the last 30 days, which I think is very important to look at. And then just some early interest and overall how this slate seems like it's going to shake up, what you guys should prepare for moving forward. So if this is your first time here, consider subscribing, liking the channel at any point. And also, if you're either first time here and you're enjoying this, or you're a returning subscriber and you've been somebody who's loyal, you know how much I appreciate you. If you can just check down below, this where we're streaming right now is Twitch. It's a live streaming platform. If you could just check down below in the description, there'll be just a little link right there to head over to Twitch. And all you have to do, if you can do it for me, is just hit the little heart follow button. It'll just notify you when I go live on Twitch. You don't even have to if it's not convenient for you when I'm going live. Just that following definitely helps me just reach more people, similar to YouTube. So I appreciate it. We're going to crack down into this video. I'd just like to start off before I start the video. Next Level DFS. It's a Facebook group. It's a website. They give out information. They have premium channels on Facebook, things like that. I'm in the NBA one right now, and it's constant. I mean, my phone's buzzing. So if you're looking for just constant news, constant updates, spreadsheets, advice, things like that, similar to what we're doing here, right? Giving you guys information. It's a great group to be in. Check out Next Level DFS. I'll pin them up in the YouTube description below. They're helping me just build up my my Twitch following. They're getting guys from the Facebook group into these streams early on. So I greatly appreciate that. Thank you. I appreciate that for sure. Check them out. Check out their website. We'll link it all up below. Definitely a cool spot to be in if you're, especially NBA, when you need that constant news if you're trying to keep up with it. So what we're going to be doing now is we're going to start with the injuries like we usually do. I mean, the first thing to point out, back-to-backs. We're on an 8-game slate. We have Detroit on a back-to-back, coming off of what was a blowout. So a lot of their guys really didn't have to play much of the fourth quarter. So maybe not too much worry there for some of the older players. And then Indiana, which seems like every time I do these slates, is just a team that I stay away from. But they're on a back-to-back as well. So we want to go through injury news, and I could filter this by salary so we actually get guys that we care about up top, right? So LeBron James is probable. He sat out late, that like literally after lock. So for you guys that are watching playing FanDuel, you took your 0 on LeBron James. That's what's tough on that's what's tough playing on FanDuel. But yeah, you took your 0 on LeBron James. He's probable, so no need to worry tonight. Can't see him doing that back-to-back games. So Kyle Kuzma, Brandon Ingram, Rondo, all these guys are going to be impacted. Rondo because, I mean, LeBron just takes insane usage from the point. I mean, the guy's basically a point guard, and potentially if this trade goes through with Rondo, Lonzo, whoever else, I mean, they're trading the whole team away, right? If that goes through, you're probably going to see a LeBron James point guard situation fairly often. So we got that. Kyrie Irving, we got the news yesterday that Kyrie's going to be out. So with Kyrie out, I mean, you're going to get the Terry Rozier potential chalk night, but he's up to $6,700. We'll talk about that. Draftkings pricing him the only real guy that was priced up, and it makes sense. He's a direct correlated guy, point guard position. But all these other guys really didn't see a boost too much on, if not a reduction in price from Boston. So Kyrie Irving being out usually means a lot of Boston guys playing well, getting 30-plus point games, and it's just tough for the slate because you're kind of throwing darts, but we can kind of work through it. Nurkic, he came up as questionable in the last game, things like that. He's now probable. He was off the injury report, so nothing really affected there outside of Lillard's overall potential and ceiling maybe being capped a little bit. Kyle Lowry, doubtful today. Sat out the last game, was late scratched again in that last game, back-to-back days. So if you're playing FanDuel and you had these guys, you kind of got burnt. Kyle Lowry, though, he's going to be out of this game. It's going to directly impact Fred VanVleet, and that's the only one I put there for right now. Obviously, that's the guy who's going to see the biggest bump. He's priced nicely. He probably becomes the chalk tonight. In the highest scoring, I believe the top 2 total game. So it's definitely a place to look for Fred VanVleet at least. And then just to scroll through these quickly, Gallinari's still out. Cedi Osman's still out. Sounds like people are tapping. Cedi Osman's still out, or Cedi Osman is ruled out now. It's going to help a guy like Larry Nance Jr., who's seeing his minutes slowly increase after coming back from that injury. If he's in the starting lineup at the 4, potentially even the 5, but if he's at the 4, I like that a lot. I like it more at the 5. Derrick Rose is doubtful. Derrick Rose is out. Teague is doubtful. This is what we're getting out of these guards. Tyus Jones is also out. You're just going to continue to get the Bayless show. And honestly, After like his third performance, I thought the guy was just a fluke, right? But now he's played in 6 games. He's averaging over 36 DraftKings points a game over that span, averaging like 34 minutes a game over that span, and he's still 5,400 on DraftKings. So definitely a guy who's impacted. Wiggins also impacted in terms of the amount of shots he'll take, and Towns. And if he could just hit a decent percentage, he should be a good play today. And then Karl Anthony Towns, again, when Teague and Rozier are out, his usage just goes through the roof, more so than it usually is. They work through him often, but just more so because he's going to handle the ball a lot more. But tough matchup against Gasol. His worst career splits are against Gasol, so keep that in mind. Covington, questionable. I just put questionable. I don't know what's happening with him. There's really no news for today yet, but he should be coming back soon. Kuzma, Zubac, both probable. A couple other guys just to hit on. Kyle Anderson's going to be out today. That's going to affect a guy like Justin Holiday, potentially this Washburn guy who started to get more minutes. I think he's still minimum price, got 20 minutes over Bruno in the last game. Crushed me. Mitchell Robinson should be back today. Cody Zeller, big news. Cody Zeller is probable today, $4,000. I'd imagine he comes in and starts. If we have no minutes restrictions on Cody Zeller, who is really impacting Kemba Walker overall, Kemba Walker is just a sister going down in the pick and roll and things like that. Cody Zeller becomes a smash play at $4,000 today. If he has no minutes restrictions, even if he does and he's starting and you get a 25 minutes out of him at $4,000, Cody Zeller's a smash for a guy who's averaging, like 25 DraftKings points on the season. 4,000, I take that. Other than that, Jonathan Simmons being questionable, that's big for a guy like Isaac, who we've seen his potential finally coming out these last 2 games with Simmons out. Ross maybe a little bit as well. And then other than that, there's no major news. So the big things that I would touch on today, the things to really just keep in mind is Larry Nance Jr. going to start at the 4. He's seeing a minutes increase. He's obviously a great player. How, again, is Boston without Kyrie going to be all split up? We're going to go through that. We kind of get the gist by now if you've been playing DFS. All the players, Jaylen Brown sees an increase, Jason Tatum sees a little bit of an increase, Horford, Marcus Smart, obviously Rozier, just all the players see a bump. It kind of gets split out. And then Cody Zeller, I think, is huge news. I think that's very big news that the industry is going to blow up over the next 4 hours and he might become chalk. I'm hoping it's not the case on an 8-game slate. It's hard to become really chalky. $4,000 if he draws this start, I love it. The industry is hopefully probably going to blow that up. And by what I mean by the industry is just all these other podcasts, articles, all that stuff. Everybody who plays DFS is going to see that Cody Zeller is probable today. How much of an impact he has on Kemba Walker, that's huge, just all that stuff. So this is the injury news for today. Again, if you're watching on the Twitch live stream, feel free to jump into the chat, put any input in. If news breaks, I'm not looking at my phone for some reason. If news breaks in the next 20 minutes, definitely feel free to jump in there, ask me any questions throughout. We'll incorporate that for sure. So next we're just going to move over to the Vegas dashboard. The only total, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, I last looked about an hour ago. The only total that wasn't out yet was this Charlotte and Clippers game. I'm not sure if that has anything to do with a guy like Tobias Harris seeing some just somewhat injury news. He should be probable. Doc said there's nothing wrong with it. I'm not sure if that has anything to do with Cody Zeller's status for this game. But yeah, that's the only one that's not out yet. I don't believe. I don't see anything in the Twitch chat. We're also on like a 7-second delay, so I'll wait a little bit. But yeah, I mean, in terms of over-unders, you guys, most of you guys watching this know, but for the ones that don't, you should be incorporating over-unders into the way you pick your contests or in your lineups, right? Contest selection is a whole nother thing. If you're wondering how you should be placing your money, splitting it up, what contests you should be playing in, especially as somebody not max entering tournaments, I have a video on the YouTube channel. You can check that out. It's definitely helped a lot of people. I've gotten the feedback so far. But we have some big totals. We have a game that I'm really looking forward to, honestly. Philly and Toronto. This could be an Eastern Conference potential Eastern Conference Finals game here. So we got Toronto, we got Philly. That's the highest over-under on the slate. Definitely a spot that you want to target. I usually target games that are around 220 or higher, just personally, but it's all relative to the slate. If there's no game over 220, clearly I'm still going to be playing. But also there's slates where you can grade the slate based on how good the slate seems. And if you don't think it's a great slate, then you don't have to play. Like, you don't have to play every night. It's tough, I know, especially if you're doing this as a living, but you don't have to. But we have a couple games over that 220 mark tonight, really only two. A couple games just dirt low, right? 203.5, 205. Those are games that, the way the NBA is playing this year, just the pace being up more than 3 possessions a team per game or right around there, those are just low totals. And we've seen just Memphis draw low totals all year. It's just a very slow team. Same thing, very similar with the team like Detroit. We saw Detroit and I think Memphis go at it just last night, or Denver go at it last night. That game was just dirt slow and ended up being a blowout. Speaking of blowouts, you can see here, there's a couple of games that have pretty wide spreads, right? 12.5, 9.5, 7.5. You can take into account if you want blowout risk. I usually don't. There's a lot of games that have close spreads that end up blowing out. There's a lot of games that have wide spreads that don't blow out, right? It's just tough to predict when the blowout's going to come. I'm somebody who doesn't really take that into account personally because, one, you have to predict the blowout's going to happen, which is very hard to do. Even if a 12.5 spread is there, maybe the blowout happens with 4 minutes left. So you have to predict if it's going to happen, when it's going to happen, who it's going to affect. And if you're not playing studs because of a blowout, I think that's just foolish because they're probably the reason the team is blowing the other team out, right? And if you're not playing, or if you're trying to squeeze in guys who might get blowout run, I think that's just terrible because, one, they're a bad player to begin with, and two, you have to predict the blowout when it's going to happen. If the blowout happens with 3 minutes left and your blowout run guy goes in for 3 minutes so he gets in the game 15 minutes instead of 12, is there really much there? He gets 20 minutes instead of 17. And he's not even a point per minute guy in fantasy, so just don't take that into account. The main thing you should be looking at here is over-unders, team totals, and just seeing what are good spots for you to target early on. Don't be fading low total games because there still is value, but definitely just keep that in mind. So Vegas is something that's straightforward for a lot of fantasy players, but we do have new people watching the streams and the channels daily, so I do like to touch on it. And it's also good for you guys to see in a dashboard like this. Take a screenshot, whatever you have to do. We're going to move over to pace, though. And if at any point you're coming into this live stream, just let me know if you want me to go back to the injuries or things like that. We'll check it all out afterwards once we wrap up the YouTube video. And also, shout out to the YouTube guys. If you're watching right now and you're getting some kind of value out of this, please, please, please hit that thumbs up button. If you're watching on Twitch, hit the follow button. It's going to help me just turn this little side hustle of mine into a passion. Subscribe on YouTube, all those types of things. Or side hustle into a job. It is a passion. All right, so pace. We have projected pace. I have a bunch of other stats here, just like their assist rates, efficiency rates, all that stuff. It's just good to look at, but main thing that I want to show you guys here is the pace. So pace is just possessions per game. A lot of you guys know this, but a lot of sites don't really emphasize it as much as they should. They might talk about it briefly, but this is very important. So possessions per game, the way that I find it is you take each team's individual pace, right? You're taking those and then you're factoring in the league pace. You can't just say, oh, the Lakers are playing OKC, which this is just an example. Lakers playing OKC, I'll just add them up and divide by 2. You can't do that because they're two of the fastest paced teams in the league. So when they play each other, you would imagine there's going to be even more possessions than just each of their averages, right? So you have to put into the equation, the league average, which right now is insane. It's like 102.36 to be exact. I was just looking at it. It's usually like 99.5. So 102.36, when you factor that in, you get a more truer and holistic look at the pace for the day. Again, pace is possessions per game per team. So for this game, you're going to see OKC each team is projected to have 103.44 of a game pace just when you take the average of each team. Now you could break it down. You could say OKC is going to have 0.2 more, but just on average, the game pace is going to go this way. And when that comes into being important is when you see a game like this, Minnesota and Memphis, it's going to have 5 possessions less per team. Now, that's a big gap, right? That's 10 possessions in the whole game. We obviously know the more possessions, the more opportunities to score the ball. And in fantasy, scoring doesn't just happen from taking shots. It happens from the rebounds, the assists. Double-double and triple-double bonuses right there is also huge. An extra just 1.5 to 3 points just because there was a couple extra possessions late in the game. So a thing that I like to look at is where does the pace and the Vegas odds correlate? Now, you would think that it would correlate often, and it usually does. And what I mean by correlate is you're going to have a high-paced game, you should have a high total game. That happens most of the time, but sometimes teams are just very efficient, like the Boston Celtics, a very efficient team, not as high of a pace team, so they'll still have a high total. So if we look at things like that, and usually I have the team total right in here. I didn't do that just because, honestly, I forgot. So if we go back to the Vegas dashboard, you'll see the highest paced game of the day, 103 or 104.44, that Toronto and Philly game. Likely enough, it is the highest total of the day, right? So that's a great spot to target. It's going to be fast-paced, so you could expect extra possessions in this game, and it has the highest total projected by Vegas. So again, you guys can screenshot this. The rest of this information is just assists, turnovers. These are just things that I look at if I'm ever in a bind quickly and wanted to see, oh, there's a defensive player who plays really good here. Eventually, I'm going to take all of these stats and rank them by team, by position, things like that. So anytime you ever want to say, well, is this center good at blocking compared to the guy he's going up against? Will he get more blocks? Things like that. That's what I want to get into more over the next few weeks. But that's projected pace, so definitely take both of those into account. The big piece now, moving into, I think one of the most important things, at least that I go over on these streams, these early streams, is the defense versus position. So defense versus position, the way I like to break it down, and what it is just how a defense defends a certain position, right? How I like to break it down is going over the past 30 days, so you get more of a truer look, right? We've had coaches fired, we've had injury news, guys taking over other guys' positions. How does that break down over the last 30 days? 30 days in the NBA is a decent sample size. You're probably getting about 15 games in there. Now, obviously, if players are coming back, like we got Boogie Cousins coming back about 2 weeks ago, it's going to impact some teams' numbers, right? But overall, I like looking at it over the past 30 days compared to the season, because you can have a guy like Spencer Dinwiddie or Caris LeVert being out for an endless amount of time, but they're still going to be factored into those equations, and I kind of like to pull them out. So this is based on DraftKings points over the last 30 days. You guys can screenshot this if you're watching on Twitch. You guys can screenshot this on YouTube. I'll probably throw these into some of the Facebook groups in the chat as well for Next Level DFS. Again, check out Next Level DFS. That chat on Facebook is it's awesome, right? We're getting things like this. I'm throwing things in there. Other people are throwing things in there. It's just cutting down research time a ton. So let me know on the stream if everything's coming through clear as well. Just want to make sure. So what we have right here is just defense versus position. I have it in red as just the top 5 defenses versus the position in terms of DraftKings points over the past 5 days. Green is bottom 5, and then yellow is then 6 through 10. So what I wanted to do is still indicate that teams are still good. Just 5 and 6, there's not a wide difference there, but I want you to know teams are still good. Same thing with a team that's ranked 24th, right? You look into these numbers. Another thing, though, is make sure you're looking into these numbers, but these are just the high level, right? It's to give you guys an idea of what's happening. Make a quick decision if something happens before lock. You can dive deeper into these numbers, right? You can dive deeper into, okay, Charlotte is going up against the Clippers. We know all year the Clippers have been a team to go up against. They just don't have a standard big man out there, right? Montrezl Harrell is decent, but he's not a standard center. So you get a guy like Montrezl Harrell or whoever for the Clippers ranked 30th. You can break deeper down into that number. What is it that they're so bad at? Is it they can't defend the driving layup? Well, who's on Charlotte? Kemba Walker. That makes him a little bit of a better play, right? You could break down into this stuff a lot more, but just for a high level, something to talk about. Looks and sounds good. Thank you guys. Appreciate that. Appreciate it, Jake. Thank you. All right. So again, target offenses. We're going to get down into now my early interests per position. So if you have any questions on this, just hop down, let me know. This is a nice dashboard just because, and if you want me to add anything, you can drop it down in the YouTube comments. Definitely let me know. You can drop it down in the Twitch stream. If you want me to add anything team-wise to this page, I think it's good to have the pace, the totals, and then obviously all these defense versus positions. What is it, like another team stat that you would like to see here? Obviously points per minute's important, but that's not a team stat. We have efficiency potentially. We could do offense and defensive efficiency. I could put that in there. That might be good to see. So just let me know for sure. We'll go over to early interest now for the guard position. So this is early interest. Again, these are not like picks, so don't like go and take these people, put them into a lineup, and come back and say your picks didn't work. No. These are early interest at 8 a.m. What I have based on the news that I have, based on how I'm looking at the data that we just looked at. Again, even if no news changes, when I go down later in the day and spend another probably 2 hours today breaking into some information, a lot of these guys are going to get off this list, right? I can't play all these guys. So these are just early interest. Fred VanVleet, obvious, right? $4,600. We already have the news. Lowry's doubtful, so probably going to be out. One time this year, he went from doubtful to playing, right? So that's ridiculous, but I don't see that happening again. VanVleet probably ends up being the chalk, but I'm fine with that. These are his DraftKings points per games. Obviously, those are not with, those are probably with Lowry, and a lot of the time, and same with minutes. You're going to see a minutes bump up. I project him probably for around 31 to 32 minutes today. Going to be taking on a lot heavier role with Lowry out. Usage should stay a little bit higher, probably around 23%. In DraftKings points, you could imagine if you get 23 out of him at 46, you feel fine, but you know he's going to be seeing a 5-minute boost and a lot more usage. He's a good play in cash, an absolute lock in cash probably today if no other news comes out. And in tournaments, he's probably fine. Marcus Smart. So what you're going to see is I have pretty much every single Boston Celtic on here because they're all interesting today, right? So we have Marcus Smart in terms of guard positions where he's eligible. 5,300, that's fine. He's a guy who he just went for 40 in the last game. Obviously, we don't want to use recency bias, but just to say that he can still perform in a tournament for you. 5,300 without Kyrie in there, it makes him a better play. He should be starting at the shooting guard position. Decent matchup for him for sure. This is just DVP, defense versus position. I didn't fill that out as well, just trying to get these videos in before people come into these rooms I'm streaming in. But the other things is just DraftKings points. Value is determined when you take your projected points. I'm using DraftKings points for the most part. I'm trying to learn how to project better. Again, if somebody knows how to do that, drop in the comments, let me know. But you find value by taking your DraftKings points, you divide it by the salary, then you divide that by 100. That's just basically the value equation, right? Points per minute's a nice spot to look at, especially if you use a site. We can slide over to, probably going to see my face here. We can slide over to a site like NBA Wowie, awesome for getting news off the Siri just turned on. Interesting. So this is me using NBA Wowie, taking Baines off the court and Kyrie, so what the Celtics lineup should look like today. And you see why Rozier is priced the way he is, and we'll get there. He's a point per minute guy, right? If you go over to fantasy, he's a point per minute guy when Kyrie's off the court. That's a big bump for him. You can just see usage rates here. It's just very good to look at all these things. You can see Tatum gets a big usage bump. Jaylen Brown, the biggest usage bump. He just shoots a ton more without Kyrie out there soaking up 20 shots a game, right? So we'll slide back over. So that kind of hits on Rozier and Smart. I think Rozier, I put through a bunch of dots by him. I put a bunch of dots by Rozier because, I mean, basically he's $6,700. He's not a value play anymore. I mean, in terms of getting a point per minute, sure, but he kind of has to play. If he's going to play 32 minutes and do his average point per minute, that's 32 points. That pretty much doesn't get you there. In cash, maybe you like that, but I don't like it in tournaments. He has a great matchup though, so you can maybe assume that he gets a little bit more than that point per minute. Just not sure. I'm going to go to Rozier today at 6,700. We'll have to see how the rest of the slate breaks out. Bayless, we talked about, like him a lot. 5,400. I think he's still too cheap, especially since those guards are still going to be out. Westbrook, early interest. He always has to be on there. Came through late with that triple-double. Although he cost the team, he didn't cost a lot of fantasy owners. We'll slide through these quickly just to get over to forward. Ben Simmons, I think, is in a great spot today in one of those higher total games, the highest total of the slate. That's where I like to target some players. I think you get him at a little bit of a discount here, $8,600. I think this guy still deserves to be around $9,000. As you can see, 44.4 is his DraftKings average. Obviously, Jimmy Butler wasn't in a handful of those games, but I think $8,600 is a great price. Fournier, just a good matchup overall. I think he's slightly underpriced. Wiggins at $6,000. I don't know why this guy's price continues just to come down and be somewhat disrespected. When we get Teague and Rose out of the lineup, especially Rose, a guy who likes to take shots, likes to soak up some usage, Wiggins is going to shoot the ball 15 plus times, and if the guy can just go 50% for us, that he's going to smash, right? He still gets the rebounds, he still draws assists. So yeah, Wiggins I love at 6K. Lou Williams I just love in general. I have a bias for Lou Williams, but I mean, how can you not when he has a 32% usage rate, 26 minutes? Those are closer now to a 28 to 29 range. Lou Williams, pretty much a 1.1, 1.2 point per minute guy, just insane usage for a guy who's coming off the bench. And I like him a lot today. He has a good matchup if he draws the start or where he should be coming off the bench at the shooting guard position. Outside of that, we have just a couple more guys to hit on. Kemba Walker, I like a lot more with Cody Zeller in there. The pick and roll, he gets just a ton more usage, and obviously his assists are going to go up. There's going to be people coming off of Kemba. His partner in crime, pretty much, Cody Zeller, is back. Pick and roll offense, they can run it. Dennis Smith Jr., I'll talk about, was the absolute chalk 2 days ago. I had 100% Dennis Smith Jr. In like only the 5 tournament lineups I played. Had him in cash though, and he had those early fouls. I think he's still a great play at $5,700. If indeed he does draw the start, he should see about, this is his average for the year, right? Another team. I'd honestly project him for about 32 to 33 minutes if he draws the start. If I had to project just based off of the top of my head in terms of points in this game, matchup, things like that, I mean, if he's going to get 32 minutes, and we know that without it, when he was on the Mavs, he was pretty much when he was on the Mavs, he was 0.9 points per minute. I mean, you can probably project this guy for today for around 35 points if he's going to get 32 minutes. Just based on the fact that his usage is going to increase. You don't have a guy like Luka Doncic soaking up 30+% usage, something like that. So that's just me just putting numbers in there. And at 35 points at 5,700, you're getting 6x value. I take that a little bit more. So that's the guards. We're going to go over now, and we're going to get into the forward position. All right. So forward position, LeBron always has to be on there. I like LeBron. I think he's properly priced, actually, for the most part, especially for this matchup. Not a high total, not the fastest pace on the slate. Or actually, yeah, not the fastest pace on the slate. Kawhi Leonard in a good spot, especially with Kyle Lowry out. Now, Lowry's the guy who usually sees the biggest bump when Leonard's out. Leonard not so much the other way for Lowry. But again, still a spot where you're going to get a high usage guy off the court, and a guy who already has 30% usage, you're going to get some more. Tatum and Brown, right? I like Brown a little bit more because you're saving $900, but Tatum is severely underpriced, and he's been underpriced now for about 3 days. He's at where his bottom price probably is. I can't see it going down much more. DraftKings won't budget. And he's basically hits he's going to hit value for you if he just goes for his average. Now with Kyrie out, you could expect a little bit more usage, a couple of more shots a game. I think a spot today for Tatum and Brown, both of them are in great situations. And we can go all the way to the bottom. We can go to Marcus Morris. Hayward at $5,000 is a little too cheap. So you can see a lot of these guys are underpriced. Tatum and Brown, I think, are very underpriced with the Kyrie news breaking early yesterday. Even Marcus Smart. Rozier was the guy who got bumped, right? Everybody else pretty much baseline. Maybe Hayward's a little expensive at $5,000. I don't mind him though. My favorite guys in the Celtics today are probably Brown and Tatum, and when we get to Horford. So Aminu, great situation today. I mean, if we're going to go and look at Aminu's matchup in terms of Portland, power forward, 26th Miami is against it. They just can't stop that position. I mean, who are they throwing out there? Magruder, James Johnson, whoever it is, right? Just not great. Tobias Harris seems like he's hurt a little bit, scares me a little bit, but his price is now below 8K. Again, psychologically, people think if you're below 8K, you're getting a discount. So we'll have to see how ownership works. If it's right at 8K, only $100 more, he would have lower ownership. That's just the way DFS works. Jonathan Bales, one of his books, is great. It talks all about that. Ibaka and Siakam. So here's the thing. These guys' prices are too low, and they're basically the same player, right? Look at this. 31.3, 31.2, 6,200. They play the same position for the most part. They're on the same team. Jonas Valanciunas is probably not going to play today. So these guys are still going to be rolling out there in the starting lineup with Ibaka probably getting the start at the 5. Look, I like both of them. I have no problem in cash games when they're in good matchups, which today, again, is super high pace. I have no problem throwing both of them out there. Now, the one not going up against Embiid, whoever it is, if it's Ibaka at the 4 or Siakam, I like that a little more. But you know that whoever starts at the 5 overall has a better fantasy opportunity because the 5, again, like I always mention, you're going to get easier opportunities for blocks, rebounds, easier shots, more double-double upside. So watch that. I'm fine playing both of them. I love them both. Paul George, an absolute monster. The guy's going to end up being one of the highest priced guys on the slate by the end of the year if he keeps it up. 30% usage. 2 guys on the team with 30% usage. We saw it again. Westbrook almost hit 70. Paul George was around 55. These guys can be both played at the same time because they don't take from each other. It's insane how well that every single one of their passes is to the other one scoring, right? It's insane how much they're correlated. Larry Nance, I love him. I love Larry Nance at 5,800 if we do get the news, which I'm expecting for him to start at the 4. If he starts at the 5, I think he's an absolute smash because of that double-double upside. A couple more guys. Marcus Morris we talked about. Isaac we talked about if Simmons is out. I like Vonleh is just a guy who's always underpriced. He's probably going to get the start at the 4 today. Mitchell Robinson's back. That impacts, I'd say, DeAndre Jordan more than Vonleh. Vonleh won't see as many minutes at the 5, but I don't think he saw really any minutes at the 5 in the last game with Jordan. Vonleh at 5,200, he's going to always come in undervalued. He's one of those guys like Thomas Satoransky who just comes in low owned, especially if they're in good spots based on price, based on matchup, whatever it is. I just like Vonleh a lot. Always has the ceiling of 50-plus points and has a pretty safe floor if he gets his minutes, which we should be seeing that today, I would imagine, close to 28, 30 minutes. We have a question in the chat. I'll move over to the center screen right now. We have a question in the chat about thoughts on Nwabe with Seti out. Yeah. I'd say I like Lance a little bit more, but I think that David Nwabe is also, if I'm saying that right, I think he's also a good play. He's going to see a minutes boost. He'll probably see 25 minutes, 24 minutes, somewhere around there. Off the top of my head, just saying that. I did have him in just injury news, I think, for who that's going to impact. If we find Cleveland guys. Cleveland, Seti Osman, yeah. So David Nwabe, yeah. Both of them are going to be impacted. I like Larry Nance, but obviously if David's going to get the start, that's where I would go, especially if you're going to get a discounts there. Killed it earlier this year with starts. Yeah, and the eligibility definitely helps. Yeah, definitely Jake and Paul. Yeah, so if he gets the start, I like him a lot. If Nance is going to get the start, if for some reason both of them get the start, which again, Lance is more of a power forward, so I could definitely see that actually now that I think about it more. What's his price? Jake, let me know what his price is actually. Is it in that 4K range? I'd imagine it is. If it's in the 3K range, that's a smash, especially if he starts. We'll get over into centers quickly. So Joel Embiid, obviously highest pace, highest total. Who's the best player in that game? Probably Joel Embiid. 10-5, I think it's too cheap. His usage rate's just insane. Even with guys like Simmons and Butler out there, he's still just getting everything worked through him. A double-double, absolute monster. Honestly, an MVP candidate. I love Joel Embiid. He's my favorite pay-up spot on the slate. Better than LeBron. You're saving money off of LeBron, and he's probably has the higher ceiling and floor than LeBron. And better matchup overall. Al Horford, again, $6,600. If we look at Al Horford, if we want to go over to Draftkings and we want to look at Al Horford right here, $6,600, his price has come down from look, his price has just come down. It continues to come down, and now we get Kyrie news out, and he just continues to perform. I have no reason not to like Al Horford today, 6,600. We mentioned I like Jaylen Brown, probably my favorite, just because you're getting such a price discount, and the guy, his correlation, again, highest used guy with Kyrie off the court, and just takes a ton of shots. Jaylen Brown's great. And Al Horford's great. Tatum as well, because he just continues to be underpriced. We've seen so many times you could just stack these Boston guys on these days when Kyrie's out and win a lineup with 3, or win a tournament, or just place high in cash with 3 or 4 of them. I see no reason why that can't happen again today. Karl-Anthony Towns. So Karl-Anthony Towns is nice, right? He's 9,700. He's cheaper. Teague is out. Rose is out. This helps his usage. We've seen it. His averages and his splits with those 2 guys out are insane. Here's the downside. Well, one, he's only $800 less than a guy like Joel Embiid. Do you really would not want to get up to Embiid with Towns? And 2, if you can somehow play both of them, which usually is attractive, playing 2 big dominant centers on any slate, and when one of them, like Towns, is below 10K, it makes it easier. Towns, his team is overall in a usage spot. It's going to go through him. He's in a good spot. Downside's Marc Gasol. Downside's Memphis Grizzlies. We could see, if we just want to look at the target offense over the last 30 days, and we want to look at Memphis quickly, it's easy to find them because they're number 1 against the center position. Not only that, we could slide over to Draftkings. We can type in Towns. His worst career splits are against Memphis and against Marc Gasol. He played him a couple days ago. He goes for 32 points. It's tough. Again, he only played 26 minutes. Some things happen in that game, but it's tough. He gets bullied around. He gets in foul trouble. Marc Gasol shuts him down. Now, I'm not going to say that this is going to happen every single time, but again, splits are there. History's there. At $9,700, I would love to try and fit him and Embiid into a lineup because there's upside there, maybe one tournament lineup. But in terms of cash, I'm paying up for Embiid in every possible spot. And also feel more comfortable saving $3,000 and going to Al Horford. $3,600. Wow. 39 or 36. 30. We got a bunch of different prices in there, but between 4,000. Yeah. Am I saying it right? David Nwabe. Yeah, Nwabe. I mean, I know who he is. Don't really hear his name much on ESPN or wherever you're watching. Yeah, if he starts, that's a great price at $3,600. He becomes great value. A guy who we can type it into NBA Wowie quickly after we go through these. Cody Zeller, I like him at $4,000. Already mentioned everything I like about him coming back with Kemba. He's way too cheap. If he draws the start, I love it. And then DeAndre Jordan. So I put him on here. He's now obviously not as cheap as he once was, but it's not that far off. $6,200. Guy who's gonna, if he hits his average, hit value for you. In cash, I think it's a fine play. In tournaments, I think he has the ceiling, although he's not a guy who produces his own offense, right? He has to, and it helps him now that he still has Dennis Smith Jr. out there with him, guys who he's familiar with. But yes, he can't produce his own shot. He can't produce his own offense. He's not that type of player. So you're very much going to have to rely on him to get those boards, to get 15-plus boards for him to smash in a tournament. Not sure I'd like him in a tournament. In cash, he's fine. Again, there's a lot more centers I'm going to be looking at today. These are the ones who caught my eye off of an early interest standpoint. Let's quickly look at NBA Wowie, and we'll kind of see what's happening with this Cleveland team. So you can go just NBA Wowie. Again, a lot of you guys probably know this. You probably already have done this. We got to find all the guys who are off the court. So we know that Tristan Thompson's off the court. We know that Seti's off the court. Anybody else off this court? We don't even got Cameron Payne on the team no more. They just got so many bums on this team right now. Kyle Korver. Jesus Christ. All right. Let's just run this bad boy. I don't even think George Hill's on the team. They just got nobody on this team, right? Hill's not on this team no more. Let's run it. Probably missed a guy or two, but that's fine. Just want to see overall what this is going to look like. Obviously, it's going to be a smaller sample. Tristan Thompson and Seti off the court at the same time. Seti's a guy who's leading this team in points a lot. Decent sample. Jordan Clarkson, that's not going to help much. Larry Nance Jr. So let's see. Fantasy. Where's our boy David? Here he is. Point per minute guy. You got to like that. Point per minute guy with these guys off the court. If he's going to see, 20-something minutes? Let's go back over here. 3,600. Yeah, so he's 3,600 on DK. Yeah, I mean, if he draws the start, we can reasonably project this guy to see 30 minutes today if he draws the start. I mean, with this team, the way who they have, like, who else are they going to go to? And the thing that I love about this, small forward eligibility, I'll throw him right into the shooting guard position because shooting guards don't do much usually, but he obviously has the peripherals as well. Yeah, point per minute guy, you kind of have to like that. What's usage looking like? Usage 19.4, not terrible. Obviously, smaller sample size, only 102 minutes, but still a decent amount to get something on. Yeah, I don't hate that. And we obviously have guys like Rodney Hood still in here, who he's not on this team as of like a day ago. We'll run this. I'll end the stream in terms of just overall get the YouTube video up. But yeah, let's just see what this is quickly. Guys on YouTube, thank you for showing out today. I really, really appreciate it. We're just going to end by seeing what this is looking like for these Cavs. We had some questions in the chat. So he gets a usage bump with Rodney Hood off the court as well. Only 69 minutes, but up to 20. Again, this is very small sample with all these guys off the court so far, especially because these, again, 1.08 with Hood off the court. So it keeps going up, but smaller sample now. Definitely with only 69 minutes. Not that reliable, but yeah, he's a great play. Thank you for reminding me about him. I had him in there in terms of who's going to be impacted, but I didn't know he was that cheap. So we'll go back over. I'll leave it on the injury news dashboard. So I just want to thank everybody who's on this stream. Thank everybody on YouTube for watching. I appreciate it so much. Again, go down and follow me on the Twitch. It's going to help if you're in the Twitch chat right now. Let me know what you thought of this. Hit me up on Facebook, Twitter, whatever it is for instant updates. And let me know if you haven't followed yet. Make sure to follow on Twitch. We're going to be trying to get these videos out as much as we can live and then obviously up on YouTube. I greatly, greatly appreciate everybody tuning in today. Again, throughout the day, I'll be posting stuff on the Facebook group, on my Facebook group, Next Level DFS Chat. Make sure you get in there as well. I appreciate it, guys. So enjoy. Have a great day. Have a great morning, because it's early as shit. And yeah, I'm going to end this stream right now. Appreciate it very much. Peace.